cloud. Perfect. Okay. All right. So you're somewhat right. But like in terms of explaining this, maybe in an interview, this would be fine, like somewhat fine. But also, I feel like it could have been a little bit better. So let me just give you guys a full context before I move forward and tell you guys what are the commands. We're going to be learning a lot of commands today in order to do things. And I'm not going to make you guys do things through UI. GitHub has two portions, right? One is UI and the other one is pretty much going through terminal. And if you're using a Mac, you're going to be seeing something like this. But don't worry, if you have Windows, you're going to be seeing very similar. It's called um, Git bash, right? Now, Git bash is very, like the commands that we're going to be using here is exactly same as the Git bash. So Windows and Mac shouldn't make a big difference. Yes, setting up initially will be a little bit maybe tougher for some people. So you have to download Git bash on your Windows, and after that you should be seeing the same, right? It's not going to call be a terminal or a bash. It's going to be called Git bash, all right? So you just have to look for Git bash, open it, and then you're going to be fine to write all the commands that we're going to be writing today. Okay.
You have to get it from Google, Git Bash.
Yeah, you can get it from Google. So if you say download GitHub, so first of all, you have to download GitHub, even if you're Mac, right? Uh, so once you go to Git, you're going to be basically doing it for Mac. If you do Windows, then, oh, okay. It's automatically downloading for me. Okay. So then you click on it, and hopefully once you download the Windows, you don't have to like specifically get the bash. The bash will come with it. Okay. For Windows. For Mac, we don't need a bash because we can directly work with the terminal, right? So that's the difference. Now, some of you guys are going to be able to use Git GUI, which means graphical user interface, right? And now if you use Git GUI, wait, how many people know what GUI is? Anybody that don't know what GUI is?
Graphical
It's
user.
graphical user interface, right?
Okay, so what does that mean in for regular ordinary Joe?
So it means it's a more friendly user interface.
That means okay, so I'm like a person that don't know anything off the street, and I ask you what is graphical user interface. What is your answer?
So it's basically where uh I mean the functions are more simplified for uh for a very a beginner.
Mhm. But then remember graphical user interface. The first word graphical, I'm gonna give you a hint, and then you tell me.
It's more picture oriented.
Um,
I don't know if I'm
has
saying the right thing.
it has user interface, right? Meaning, user can actually see things before they click. This could have been like the whole website. They don't necessarily need to have it just like this. They could have just make it non-graphical user interface. That means these could be just like some sort of like it could have been something like this, like looking like all blank window, and there are things where you have to click, right? That means it's non-GUI. This is a non-GUI mode, right? This basically is non-GUI, right? Where you don't really get to click here and there. You don't get to find what button does what. You don't get to read the button labels, right? For example, this one. And you don't get to know what are the commands that you can play here, right? Obviously, you'll have to type help, right? Or something. Whatever you're using, you like, for example, Git. If I do Git, it gives me all of these commands that I can use, right? Now I have to type that, right? Here, you can just go ahead and click on it and then start looking into the documents that they have. So graphical user interface is really what user can see and be able to navigate themselves through without knowing code, without knowing the tool whatsoever, right? You can they visually see it. Non-GUI is basically what we don't see it, right? We just know how to use it. We know the commands and so and so. So for um for Git today, we're going to be learning non-GUI is because GUI is something if you learn non-GUI, which is all pretty much every developers do, and then you can explore your GUI client yourself, because that is also pushing code, pulling code is fine. But I'm not a big fan of GUI because it doesn't show that you're a coder, right? Imagine like you're using graphical user interface and you're supposed to be a coder, right? So how, it just doesn't make sense, right? All right, but anyway, you're welcome to use GUI client when you join a company and you feel like, okay, there is no other choice, but I need to use this to push my code, pull my code, look at the difference, go for it. Nobody's gonna say no, but you're gonna see like everybody's like just using directly commands to push their code. Okay, so the setup is very easy. For Mac, you download it. For Windows, you click here, and it'll automatically give you this box right here, which is Bash. So you're gonna get a Git Bash for Windows guys, and for Mac, we already have. So all you have to do is restart this once you download it. Download it. Just close this and open it again, and your Git should be good to go. All right. So also remember, the first thing is config, right? You have to configure your GitHub, right? Before you can initialize a repository, because where are you going to push, right? You need to have a GitHub account. So now if I go to github.com and let's see if I'm logged in. If I'm not logged in, then I'm going to log in. So the reason you need to log in, because everybody has their own repository, right? So here, as you can see, I have a bunch of repository here. And I can push code and pull code. So this is from my last badge or something. And as you can see, people actually created pull request, right? Some people actually created pull request, meaning they want to add something to this repository, and I can see what they want to add, right? They just added a new comment or something. I don't know who did this. Let me adding comment. Or I can see the name right here. Okay, it's one of the Jeffreys. So I think Shajiv added this. Uh, so like I said, you are adding something and then you're then asking for a review by doing a pull request. So what is a pull request in GitHub is that you just edit a code and you're asking people to review before you can put this code directly into the master repository. So let me go into the sketch to give you guys some idea, okay? So imagine like you just join a company and think like this is a repository. Guys, what is a repository? Do you guys know?
Storage, right?
Right. I mean, sort of like it's like a bucket where you have all the codes. But if you really want to visualize, this is the repository. This is how the repository look like. Um, Pretty much it has files and folders and they contains code that people wrote or you wrote, right? As you can see, poem and everything is in here. The only thing you're missing in here is the local, let me see. I'm gonna open up my IntelliJ. Okay, let it load. Okay, you're gonna see some intentional things that are missing, right? External libraries, right? You'll see external libraries are missing because this is not part of the Git push, right? And the reason is because like you need external libraries only when you're running your, right? Only when you're running your code, when you want to execute the code, right? Or compile the code. So these, because you're using Maven, you don't need to push this directly to the repository, because every time you run your code, you can just do Maven install, right? Which is build at this point, right? And that will automatically create this external library folder or file somewhere. This is a folder at this point. Wherever you are trying to execute, it will automatically create it and have all of this dependency directly there. So as you can see, we don't have that here, right? We don't have that external libraries. We don't need to. We can just simply push the code. You're going to see a hidden folder.idea. This is just basically the setup for your IDE. So if somebody pull this code, they will automatically get the same setup as you for the IDE that you're using. Okay. And then you can see drivers and all that. So now this is a repository. We established that already, right? with that level of knowledge, now think about it. This is the repository. When you first join the company, they give you a link to this repository, and we call that a master, right? So M for master. And let's think about the let's think about this issue with like working with directly to master, right? Um, First of all, let's say a company has 5 developers, right? D1, D2, D3, and D4, right? So all four of these developers, or let's say automation guys, right? And this is a repository, and it's not in GitHub. Okay, so right now it's not in GitHub, and they're asked to work on adding new tests. Okay, so this guy, he takes this and start editing the test, right? And so the D1 guy added his test to, let's say, file number 1. D2 guys also took it at the same time, and he was already working on the same file, but he added more test. Okay, and I'm gonna give you guys that problem so you guys can tell me what is gonna be the problem. So now the D2 guys also got the same repository and added some code to the same file 1, right? Now D1 guy, so D2 guy go ahead and save, and they basically copied this um, at the same time, right? So they had identical, and all of them had identical, right? Let's say all of them pulled it and they wrote some code at some point, right? All of them at the same time, they um, got the copy from master and they started working on it. So now let's say D4, he pushes his code, meaning he saves. Let's just think about saving, right? He added lines of code that will be for running some tests or writing some tests, and he pushed it, right? Um, Now let's say whatever, he can say file number 2, he went ahead and saved here. D3 followed by wants to save, right? For let's say file number 4 or 5, doesn't matter, right? There are a bunch of files. File number 3, D3 now wants to do right after him. What is the problem do you see immediately? And that is without GitHub. Anybody see a problem here? There will be two significant problem. Number one is, okay, file, if he's doing it for the same file, which is file 2, then it will be a significant issue. But if he's doing it for file 3, it will still be an issue. But
I think Julva, the version, the update one.
right, so think about this way. They got the same version when they were working on it. Everybody got it at the same time. When the automation guy 4 pushed his code, now whichever version he has is no longer same, right? Now this guy has already written some code and posted there, and this guy had the old version of the same repository, okay? And now he's pushing his changes to save. And I'm just saying, without GitHub, what it will do is that it will erase this guy's code. Okay, it will erase it because this guy doesn't have the code that he pushed. Okay, followed by the same thing for every other developers, right? It's going to be the same problem where one person will erase another person's code without knowing, and it will happen again and again. And that makes it difficult to do what? To basically have multiple person or multiple employee working on the same code base, code repository, or whatever you want to call. Is there any confusion about that? Do you guys understand before I move forward with the next explaining what GitHub does?
Oh, yeah, but I have a quick question.
Yep.
So suppose they commit the changes, right? And they push the code like at the same time and at the same second. Like
Mhm.
suppose at 1 p.m. I push some code and
Mhm.
you push it too. Like then what will happen? Will it create any kind of conflict or anything or
So this is not using any version control, right? So it's like you have a file and you're saving it on your computer. Okay. So here you're saving it on a remote computer at this point, right? Somewhere in the cloud. So, and it saves, for example, unlike Google Drive, like, you know, how Google kind of knows like who wrote what, and then they march those, you know, changes. Um, it, it's not going to do that, right? Because we're not really having Google here, right? So now what's going to happen is if this guy is faster by milliseconds, and I'm talking about 0.000 milliseconds, then his code is going to be pushed first, and then he's followed by his, and he will erase this guy's code, and then similar to any other thing. And this is not using any version control. So when you say committing code and pushing code, that is basically relevant to GitHub. And we will talk about that just now, since we just talk about what will happen. What is the disaster is about to happen if you don't use GitHub and you try to have multiple um, developers, automation developers, or any like developers, right, working on the same repository without having any sort of version control tool. Um, so we're erasing that. Now, this is what the Git does, right? So Git, the way Git works is that, first of all, on the cloud, right? Like just like going on this website, right? This is my master, right? So it creates a multiple version of the same code. So each one gets a branch name, right? So each branch is basically different type of code. Like as you can see, people are trying to push here. So now, initially you start with master. So this is your master branch. And I'll just put it to the side, it's probably better. Okay, so this is your master branch, and you got the same situation, right? You got the 5 developers hired at the same time. They're working exactly at the same time. And I'm gonna be writing also the commands so that way it becomes more relevant for you guys to understand. And so this is your, oops, type developer one, D2, actually, okay. D3. Oh, I gotta click on this again. Oh, okay. D4, and then D5, okay? So imagine these are like automation developers, somebody like yourself, after 3 months, join the same company. This is your master branch, right? And everybody was asked to work on that branch, okay? And now everybody started pulling the code. So when they pull the code, what commands they need to do, right? So they're gonna be cloning this repository to their own computer, right? So imagine this is their computer, right? So so basically they're gonna say, let me make this lower, 36 and maybe 28. Okay. So they're gonna be cloning to their local branch. So they're gonna say git clone, and then the address, right? So here is gonna be the address of the link, right? So no, okay, clone. This is the command, actual command, git clone, and then they have to put the repo link, right? So repository link, okay? And it will go ahead and add this to their computer directly. And I'm going to show you how that works. Once that is done, if they feel like their branch, so now they have created same thing, a master locally on their computer. So now there is a master in the cloud and there's a master on their computer. Okay.
So Julbhai, this is the comment that you just wrote, git clone repo link. This is the comment, right?
So what will happen if you write repo link? It'll work?
No, I'm saying this is the comment that we have to use also. So we write it down, right?
Which one is the command, actual command here? Which one something that you'll have to replace with something else?
Git clone.
Git clone.
Git clone is the actual command, right? And then repo link is where you have to go into the GitHub and you click on the code, and then this is the link, HTTPS, or you can use SSH. It depends, right? So you got two method of cloning, as you can see right here. Now, also you got actually three method of cloning. Before they had two. CLI is basically when you have already GitHub CLI on your computer installed. So that's different. We're not going to talk about that right now. So SSH is basically when you already have your GitHub account to know the public key of your computer. Like your machine has public keys and you have already delivered that public keys and put it in your setting. Then you can use SSH. Okay. Now, if you do not have that, but you logged in and you can log in on your GitHub with regular login. It's not an enterprise GitHub, right? So most likely the companies have enterprise. That's when you're gonna have single sign-on, and you're gonna need to be able to use SSH. You cannot use HTTPS. So now let's say you got lucky and you're using HTTPS, then you copy this, okay? So I'm gonna put that as an example, and all you have to do is, this is how your command is gonna look like, okay? Git, and I'm gonna like move that down here, and this is the exact command. If you do type this on your machine right now, it will automatically copy everything from here and put it in your computer, and it will name it as master, master. Now this master, this is on cloud, and imagine like D1, which is you, did this just now, then you will have another master on your computer, which has no relation. Pretty much it's copy of this guy, but in your computer. That's called local master. Okay, so you will have a local master at this point. Okay. Um, Once you do that, the next thing is you would like to write some code, right? So once you cloned it, you are on the right branch, and you want to write some code, right? So then you're gonna be creating another branch, right? So I'm gonna be writing this too right here. So let me just go ahead. So you're going to be creating another branch, and this is the way you create a branch. You're going to say, so you already have master, right? So to make no mistake, once you finish, you have the master, but you want to create a new branch. So you're going to say git checkout, and then -b for branch, and you got to give it a name. So the name of the branch, when we create a new branch, we're basically naming it very relevant to the changes that we're making, right? So imagine you are making changes for, let's say you are adding a new test, or you are adding a new end-to-end test, right? So you can say E2E test, right? Um, for, or you can do something like this, right? E2E test for, let's say, some flow, right? So like business flow, or maybe like um, agent flow or something, right? But E2E test for our case, right? So now you gave it a name, E2E test. Okay, that's the first thing you did. The next thing you need to do, and I'm gonna keep going down, we're gonna go up later. It's fine. Once you created it, so the first thing you did, you cloned the repository, you copied what's in the master, then you decided to do create a new branch and give it a name, right? And now when you do checkout and branch at the same time, what's going to be, what it will do, it will move you directly, right? As soon as it creates the branch, it basically copying the existing branch, the master branch, and creating a new one. And then it will put you into this branch checkout. That means you're going to be into that branch already. So now you can immediately start making changes. Okay. So once you make changes, so let's say make changes or adding
So
new.
Joe, you don't directly make changes to the master files. First, you make a clone of the master file and then work on it, right?
We create a branch of the master, right? So from the master itself, we create a new branch. Okay, so it's a,
So the clone is the branch, right?
so initially the first time you clone it, right? After that, Git allows you to create any version. So you're going to create a new version, which will be exactly same as master. And then once you have that version created using the name, then you're going to be adding to that. Now your version becomes different now, right? Because you just added a new code. Make sense?
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Okay, cool. So now once you go ahead and made the change already, you're done. Like let's say, okay, you're satisfied, you're happy with the changes that you just made. The next thing you can do is saying, okay, I will be committing to this change. So you're gonna say git commit. This is an actual command too. So you're gonna say git commit and you're gonna say m for message and you're gonna have to write a message that will say what you did, right? So I have added new test, right? For E to E. So you basically go ahead and do that, right? So you added a new test, um, and you went and committed. Now, how many people think commit means, okay, done, I pushed my code and I'm good to go? Or commit means you simply just ready to push, right? That means you're satisfied with the changes that you made, you tested yourself, it's working, and you're happy with the way you wrote the code and now you committed. That means this code will be ready to be pushed, right? So now the next thing you need to do, you need to go ahead and try to push this code, right? So you're gonna say git push, right? And now initially when you do git push, it will give you suggestions. Okay, so if this branch e2 branch never existed here, okay, because it's still in your local, you never ever pushed before the first time, then it will give you a suggestion, right? So the suggestion is going to be something like, okay, hey, you're trying to do a git push, but this branch never existed, so please do git something like this: git push remote origin, and then the name of the branch, right? So the name of this branch, E2E, something like that. So it's very similar to the command, but it's not going to be exact, most likely. Um, so it's, instead of using just simple git push, it's going to ask you to do something like this, but the command will be pasted for you. So you just got to copy and paste, and you're good to go, right? On your terminal, it will give you a suggestion and say, hey, you're trying to push something on a branch that never was pushed before, right here. So go ahead and use this command, and then you're going to be using that command. Okay. Now, if you do it for the first time and you use this command already, then the next time you add something new to the same branch, you can just simply do git push and it will go ahead and add it. So now, once the git push is done, then, and we're going to do this in action so that way it makes sense, right? Then you go directly, once the git push is done, you go to your GitHub repository on the website. Okay. So whatever link you have, you're going to go there. And here is going to be a message saying you just pushed a new branch, right? And it will give you an option to create a pull request. So then you click on it and create the pull request, and something like this is going to be created. A pull request is going to be a pull, and then it's going to give you an ID. And now somebody can, your managers or someone can actually review what changes you made. Based on that, they're going to say, okay, looks good. If they say, it looks good, and they will approve, you see. And now once the approval is done, somebody can merge it. So I'm going to go ahead and merge this change, confirm, and now his branch no longer needed. The name of his branch is adding comments, right? Because this was just merged. So only the changes, meaning only whatever changes he made, was pushed to the master itself. So the master already has it. So you can see adding changes was just added second ago to the master. So it only checks the delta. What is the difference in code compared to the current version? So it compares multiple version, like it compares the current and the new version, and then it sees what are the difference, and only the difference gets merged to the master. So far, you guys are with me? Makes a little bit sense, right? Okay. So now let's do.
Julvai, can you just repeat the margin part?
Mhm. So so think about this way, right? I'm gonna go into my another pull request. Think about this way. New driver feature is added, right? So somebody saw this added this, and he went ahead and he wrote some code, right? As you can see, so much codes that he wrote. Now, in a normal situation, I would not accept this because this is gonna be breaking Mac. So Mac users is not going to be able to use this anymore, right? Only Windows users can use this because his changes will pretty much break Mac users, but it will keep the Windows user fine. Now, maybe I don't want to mark that. I'm going to go into another pull request to show you as an example. So new web element, somebody against the south, and now what he did here is that he just added, okay, same thing. So now his branch, these changes that he has on the right side is only on his branch. The name of the branch is new web element, right? Now, if we go into the same file, if we go into the same jar repository file, we're not going to see this on our master. So if you go back and click on master, and you'll see like different branches. If we click on master, master still doesn't have those changes, right? The way we know this, you click on it and you just go ahead and just dig through the file and see the settings. 1 second. Okay, drivers. Okay, let's look at the my package and then click on the driver. As you can see, drivers still have the Mac version. Okay, so his changes is never there. So the merging happens is when people are satisfied that new changes, like for example, adding new test right here, and somebody added. So let's see. Okay, so like for example, this guy. So now his changes belong to this branch. He wants to merge it to master. Master still is not having the changes that he made. So this is the changes that he made compared to the master itself. The master is on the left and then his changes is on the right. If I'm a manager or if I'm his coworker, I can simply say is good. And then he now then go into his branch and go ahead and merge this pull request. Once he merges it, that means his code will go ahead and merge it into the master. So now master will have all the changes he have here. So once that is done, then this branch no longer is needed. This branch can be deleted, whatever, right? This branch can stay whatever however that is, but master will have the new changes. Any more questions?
Yes, Joel bhai. So in real time, like, do we have to do it like this way, create our own branch, and then wait for the lead or the manager to have a look, and then they will merge it if it's successful?
So you see, it could be like somebody is merging it for you in your company because this really depends on the process itself. If somebody is not merging, then you will merge it yourself. As soon as you see an approval, that means somebody has saying, you know what, it looks good, then you can go ahead and merge it yourself. Now, some companies says, you know what, don't merge it, we're going to be merging it. So you're going to see that just 1 or 2 person in the company, they just look at it, they review it, and they merge it. But then for automation repository, I don't think, because you're going to be the owner, right? When you join a company and you're writing automated test, that repository becomes yours. If you are the first QA, or if you are like, let's say, senior QA. um, so now if you do not join as a senior QA and you're maybe mid-level, or you just joined, then you go up to somebody like a coworker and say, hey, should I be merging this, or somebody else is going to merge this? Most likely they'll say, okay, you can go ahead and merge as soon as you get an approval. So no, so see the approval process here, right? Um, there is no issue on seeing what code you're merging. Imagine like somebody just sent me the whole file here. I have read some code and they don't tell me where that is. It's still fine. With GitHub, I can see the difference before and after. And I can just say, okay, you know what, this will create a significant issue, right? So right here, this will be, so I can just write a comment instead of, I can say, okay, this will break Mac users, right? So now Mac users cannot use it. So I can add a single comment, and then he will have to go and fix this by replying saying, okay, I'll go ahead and fix it. Okay, I'm working on it or something. And then he will fix it. And then he will then ask me to give my approval again. And once I do the approval, then he will simply go and click on this button, one button click and done. And now you're going to go back to your computer, and remember, on your computer you're still into the same branch, right? E2E branch, and this branch was just merged and is done. So now you're gonna have to go back to the, once this push is done and you're ready to go, the next thing you need to do, you need to get out of this branch. You don't need this branch anymore. So you're gonna say git checkout master, right? So now you're going back to your local master. But remember, local master do not have the changes. So once your pull request passes and pushes, local master do not have the changes yet. So you're gonna say pull. You're gonna basically simply do a git pull here. Let me just go ahead and write this. And it's not case sensitive, so I'm just writing it for the good, for looks good, right? Lowercase everything. So now, once you do git pull, your master is going to be exactly same version as the remote masters. And then you can do the same thing again, create a new branch, write some code and push. So it's pretty, like, if you really like give it a deep thought, it will get to you. But we're going to show you how it works. And sometime when people get a job, and the first 2 weeks, I try to tell them this is how, when you join, this is how they're going to give you a repository, you clone it, and then you start writing your code, and that's how you're going to be pushing it. But I also give them some courses that I want them to finish, and that means every day they're going to be spending 8 to 10 hours to finish those courses. So let's say you happen to found yourself a job and you're starting in 2 weeks. That 2 weeks is going to be for you, is going to be boot camp. It's not going to be going out with friends and family and enjoying and saying, hey, I just got a job. It's not going to be like that, right? You're not going to go out there and party, because it's a good news, right? But you're not going to be partying or celebrating early, right? We can celebrate that, right? We can always celebrate that. You can take us out, all of us, right? It's not a problem. But to start your job, that 2 weeks is very crucial, because if you didn't learn in that 2 weeks what they need, because once you get an offer, we know exactly what the company is going to need, right? So we give you a exactly fitted, prescribed skill sets that you need to acquire. And if you don't do it and you join the company, you're going to be behind already. And after that, what's going to happen is you can't learn anything after joining a company. I can, believe me, I'm telling you, this is how it is. You join a company, you are not going to be studying. End of the story. You're not going to be studying. You cannot study. And it's not like you don't want to study, but you cannot study, because you're going to be spending 6-7 hours every day on meetings, and your brain is going to be fried. You just want to find that basically free time where you can just silent yourself and just sit down and do something else, not work, right? And I understand that. So that's why, remember, once you get a job, you really can't study, right? So do as much as you can now, because once you get a job, if you feel like, oh, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to be studying everything because I have a job and I'm making money, it doesn't work like that. Once you get a job, you're going to be involved too much into the project itself to learn how application works. You're going to be talking to a lot of people. You're going to have your managers, and end of the day, you're going to get burned out the first couple of months, and all you want to do is relax after work, and which is fine. But that's why I ask you guys to spend time and learn right now. um all right, so now let's go back to our diagrams, right, to give you guys more into this, right, and how GitHub actually helps, and what are the conflicts here, how do we, and now we're going to be talking about resolving conflict. This is the flow of, we're missing the pull request here, right? Pull request we showed you physically, so just keep that in mind before you check out master and create another, and making your master up to date, and then doing this whole thing all over again. We had to create the pull request and get it approval and get it merged. Okay, that's something that you have to keep in mind. Now, with Git, how do we resolve conflicts? That is a interview question, and that is basically the hardest thing you need to learn in Git. Okay, nothing else. D1, this person has go ahead and did the cloning. Okay, this person did the same cloning. This person also did the cloning of master. This person did the same thing, and this person also did the cloning. Now all four have their local master. Okay, Now D1, he did all of these things, right? He added his code and everything, and he got a approval in right here somewhere. He got a pull request approval, and after that he went and merged that code by going into here, right? So he just went and click on merge. And once the merge is done, this master, this is a remote master. Everybody else have their own local master. So I'm gonna like go ahead and add this to this. And this is his local master. So imagine like the same code, same master. This is just to make more represented and give you guys a visual. I don't know how of a good job that I'm doing. But anyway, so this box, right? This is the changes that he made. So that means these branch have some extra code that he wants to merge. So he takes his extra code and he pushes this, right? And merges, right? He merges his code. This guy already did that. Now, remember, the previous version of master is still here, still here, still here, and still here. The next person, now he wants to go ahead and do the same thing and merge. What will be the first problem that GitHub will complain about? This is followed by this. This guy already did, right? So this guy is already done. This guy now wants to do it. And this master is no longer same as what he had initially.
Same codes.
What is the problem GitHub will complain about? Somebody said same code. I don't understand. Can you explain?
Sorry, Joel, go ahead. No.
Can you explain? You said same code.
Yeah, because you said all these 5 people have the same same thing on their local master. So so when he is pushing back, I mean, when D1 just get the approval on like depositing his first one, the second one also have the same code that they work on, because they all have the same codes.
How they have the same code? Because remember, this guy already pushed his code. Now this master, remote master, is no longer same as this, and this, and this. All of them have the previous version of master. As soon as D1 has pushed his code, the new version of master is different. It has some extra code that this guy wrote, correct?
Right.
These guys pushed and they didn't sync their local master. They didn't really update their local master to meet the pretty much to get the new code. They didn't pull. No pull was done, and he wants to now push his code. What's the problem do you see? Obviously, I'm not gonna ask you for the error message that the GitHub will provide. If you know, that's fine. If you don't, then I'll go ahead and explain.
Can you explain one more time, please?
Sure. So now, if you are pushing this, now you're gonna face a conflict. So in GitHub, right? If this D1 guy worked on file number 1, exact file, and this guy worked also on file number 1, then you're gonna see the message saying conflict, right? You want to push, everything is good, and the moment you are going to do this, oh, what am I doing? The moment you're gonna write this command and just say git push, it will say sorry, we have a conflict, right? So and conflict. So conflict is when, so basically conflict happens because it will erase the changes that this guy made already. It will erase it. If GitHub doesn't point that out to you, say, hey, this file was already updated, you are behind. That's what's gonna say to you, right? It's gonna be similar messaging. I'm just giving you more human form, but it will be like, there is a conflict in file number 1. There was a changes merge exactly at this date, this time. Go ahead and update, and before you make that change, right? So that's the conflict this guy will face.
But Joel, just one question. like the second D2, when he is pushing it, he has a different one, right? Like he work on something different, like definitely based on the same previous code, but he updated something, like he did something new, right?
Well, how do you assume that? What if he was working on the same, test? He's just adding to make it better. Can you?
Yeah, but when someone changes it, it gets changed, like the whole thing gets changed, right?
Okay, so look, you
Yes.
gotta you gotta come out of your, like, at least, just focus a little bit, because I'm repeating this again. This guy worked on file number one. Okay, this guy worked also on file number one. This guy happened to get the approval and pushed it first. Okay, now it's not necessary that this guy maybe wrote a test case and then this guy maybe wrote the second test case under the same file, right? Now, because they are dealing with the same exact file, GitHub will tell you, this is not how I feel or you feel. GitHub will tell you, hey, you are behind by one push. You are behind by one commit. This guy that he made a commitment and he pushed it. Because you don't have the same exact changes that this guy already pushed it to master, it will say you are behind. And he's going to say git conflict, and you're going to say, it will say, oh, you're behind by one push or two push, or you're behind by this code or that code, right? At that point, you get your signal. If you do a force push, you can still do a force push, okay? If you're using a command called dash dash force, I'll write it here for you. And you don't want to do that. You never want to do this, because you will probably get fried by your manager or something, because you decided to go ahead and make the change anyway when GitHub is warning you about something. So now, when you use this command within your push, like git push force dash dash force, it doesn't care about this guy. It will say, I'm going to go ahead and erase his changes. So it will erase his changes, and now the complete new file will be the exact version of the file D2 has and pushed. This guy's work is gone. Maybe he worked 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, and this guy's work is totally gone. But GitHub initially will give you, hey, there is a conflict. You are behind by one commit that somebody else made, and it'll probably give his name too. Like, this guy made a change. Can you go and either make that update or change it? So now, once he noticed there is a conflict, what is the right thing for us to do? Right? What is the right thing for us to do? As soon as we are doing that push and we get this conflict, the next thing you want to do is that, okay, you know what? The changes that you made to F1, you're gonna be stashing it. It's called git stash, right? What does git stash mean? Let me just write it here. This is a stash. Now, git stash is basically whatever changes that you made, you're putting it to the side. Okay, your changes will be saved in a temporary file. That's what stash means. Okay, and sorry guys, I need some coffee here. Okay. By the way, just don't worry, because we're going to be doing this. I'm just explaining so you get a bigger picture before we get into and say, okay, too many things, right? Too many things, too many workflow. I don't understand. Okay. So now, once you do git stash, whatever changes you made it to your file, it will be set aside in a temporary file. Okay. And then at that point, your master, you can go back to your master and pull all the code that this guy has pushed and update your branch. You're matching your branch. You're updating your branch to be same as master, right? So the next thing you need to do here is update your branch to match master. Probably getting a little bit complicated, but when we do it physically, it'll probably make a bit more sense, right? And you may think like, why are we going through all this trouble of updating and this and that? Trust me, at work, you will be doing this anyway. So then what's going to happen? Once you update your branch, now you can reapply the changes that you made before. Remember, when you stashed it, it was moved to a temporary file. So how do you reapply the changes to your branch? There is a command for it, right? It's called git unstash. If I still remember, I'm not looking at any note or anything. It is going to be unstash, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be unstash. But if not, then it will be similar command, right? So now you do git unstash, it will take all of your temporary changes from a temporary file and reapply where it originally was. Okay. And then you can do your pushing. Then only then that at that time you have fixed the merge conflict, and now you can go ahead and do the pushing. Now simply instead of using all of these commands, what else can you do? You can simply do it manually. You can copy all of your changes yourself, put it in a notepad, and then now your master is same as previous master, previous version of master. Then you're going to go back to your branch and you're going to do pull, or you're going to merge your you're going to merge the master into your branch, right? You're going to say git pull, go to the master git pull, and then after that go to your branch and you're going to say, okay, I want to match exactly what the master has by merging all the changes from master to my branch, right? Once you do that, now you have your branches updated, and then you go to your notepad and reapply the changes. This is exactly what we're doing with command right here versus you doing it manually. Copy, put it somewhere else, update branch, put it back to the same, and then now you're ready to push. So what GitHub allows you to do, having multiple version of the same repository and letting user know when they're pushing immediately where is the conflict, what are, where they need to work on, if somebody else pushed it already without overriding somebody else's change. So simultaneously 50, if not hundreds of people can work on the same branch without having any sort of issue where somebody is going and overriding somebody else's change, right? Now overriding somebody else's change, let's say you went ahead and did that anyway, they will catch you exactly when you create the pull request. If you're overriding somebody's change, then and you create a pull request, they're going to see that, right? They're going to see before and after. They're going to say, wait a minute, this was already pushed by this person. Why are you overriding it? Do you have a good reason? They're not gonna go mad at you, but they're gonna ask you the reasons, and you're not gonna be able to give the reasons, right? You're gonna be like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I pushed. I'm sorry, you know. And it happens sometimes, and you would be able to just explain and say, I'm sorry, I didn't look at it. I just click on push right away. So we got ourselves an interview question here, which is how do you um, deal with merge conflict? You're gonna say, I'm gonna use git stash. This is not a command, okay? So I'm just gonna symbolize this is not a command by putting this. This is just us. This is basically a topic, right? So followed by everything else is a command. This is also not a command. Um,
So Jules, Git conflict is just an alert, right? When you're trying to override something, it will come up.
It will give you a message, like error message, like, hey, you're having a conflict. You are at this file and that file, you're having this and that problem, right? All right, cool. So now we learned a little bit about GitHub. I want each of you right now spend maybe like 30 seconds per person, right? And give me your high level understanding. What high level understanding meaning, like what GitHub is that you think, right? So let's see. So let's start off by, I just want to increase some communication here. So, and it gives me maybe like 5 or 2 minutes of break that I need. All right, so let's go ahead with Abid. What do you think about GitHub now? Now that we have a high level picture, I just want to see how I did, if I did a good job by explaining.
I joined late, but what I understand so far is that it's a repository
Mhm.
where you store your codes, and multiple people can work on a master file or master branch.
Mhm.
Um, uh, you also have your own local, if I'm using the right term, or what I'm trying to say, that you have a main master branch, but you have your own master file or branch also where you work on the codes to update them. You all push your file or your work and merge it with master branch. Sometimes it create conflict.
Mhm.
um, to avoid the conflict, the best way is that instead of pushing or forcing your code,
Mhm.
you update the branch. Suppose if we all are working on writing A to Z alphabets,
Mhm.
if D1, the first person, wrote ABC, your job is to do DEF, and other is XYZ.
Mhm.
If someone else update their file first, instead of pushing your codes, you should update the master file first, and until then you can put your work on the side, and then once your master file is updated, only then you can merge um, your file with the master file, so it will not overwrite somebody else's work.
Okay. That's I mean that's a lot of information that you have just I guess acquired. Now like there's one thing that I would like to correct. Everything else is fine. Is that remember like once you have your local master, you're gonna be making another branch top of that master, like exact same clone of that, and give it a name relevant to the change that you're making, and then you want to push this one. You cannot just push back master, right? Then you're basically merging master directly without any pull request, and that will create a huge problem at work.
I'm sorry. So you have your main master, right? And
Right?
then you have your own master.
Correct.
So you work on your. So you. I'm still confused about pull and push, I think.
So let me go ahead and explain real quick.
Okay.
So this is your remote master, and let's assume this is your local master. Okay,
Okay.
this is D1. Now your local master, you create a new branch and you give it a name. Okay, the name is relevant to whatever change you want to make. So this is another master's. Before you started working on it, these two are pretty much same as each other. The
Right.
difference is this one has a new name and this one has a master as a local name, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now, once you push your changes and want to create a pull request, the whole thing is going up there in the cloud. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And it will basically be on the master. It will basically just go ahead and start putting those branches like this. So once you make the change, it will go and wait right here.
Okay.
Once it's there, then you want to basically take this only the deltas, only the difference, meaning whatever changes that you added, you want to push it back here. That's what you want to do here, right?
Right.
So
Right.
now it's still in a separate branch and waiting. So then you create your pull request. I should just use the, okay, hold on. Then you create your pull request. And then you get an approval by your coworker, let's say, right? So somebody's looking at your pull request, right? And then they're saying, oh, it looks good, right? Then you get an approval. So I'm just going to symbolize approval by check mark,
Right.
right? Once that is done, it gives you an option to take all of your changes and push it back to master at that
Master.
point.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So that is the best approach. You can directly just do it from here. You can directly push it back here, but then you miss the pull request part, right?
Okay. Okay.
So just imagine like without pull request, what's going to happen? If you make a mistake, then nobody is there to tell you that, right?
Okay. Yep.
All right. So this is okay. So now the push is done. And what happens if you want to work on something again? You're going to get out of this master, okay? Sorry, you're going to be getting out of your feature branch, right? This is the branch that you named whatever you want. You're going to be getting out and you're going to go back to, first, you're going to go back to your local master, right? And you're going to go back to your local master. Once you went back to your local master, I'm going to put it right here. The first thing you need to do, because your local master still is the same version as before, but this guy just have the new changes that you have, right?
Right.
So far with me, right? Okay. Then you're gonna say, okay, I want to have my local master to be same as the new version of the master, right? So you're gonna say pull, right? You're gonna say git pull. This is a command actually.
Right.
Once you do that, now you have exact version of the master that was recently changed by yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Now what you're gonna do now, basically this branch was just replaced, like this was just replaced with this new changes. So it will be same. These two are same right now. Okay.
So D1 and the new one that you just created,
You
they have
didn't create
same.
it. You basically pulled it
Pull
from.
it. Pull
Yeah.
it.
So
Yes.
now this one has the same change. This is just to kind of give you an perspective. Now you want to work on something new. You're gonna basically create a new branch. Oh, what am I doing? Okay. You're gonna create a new branch just like this one, and you gotta give it a new name. Okay. And go through the entire cycle.
Okay.
Is that a good understanding there?
It
And
is.
that is the best practice of pushing code. Now if you go join a company and they don't follow this, you can certainly ask them to follow this. This will remove a lot of conflict between you and your coworkers.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So yeah, no, thank you for at least reiterating and explaining everything that you learned, and I was able to explain or at least clarify something that you weren't clear about. Anybody? Okay, so
But
let's. Mhm.
Joe bhai, I have a question.
Yes.
So, all these, I mean, because you said to write codes, but this is more of a developer's work than a tester work, right?
Hmm. Well,
Okay.
you're saying developer will do this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, is it more related to like a
So,
developer doing this?
so let's say you are writing code. You're writing code for testing, right?
Okay.
So can you call yourself a test developer?
Yes.
Okay, so are you a developer to do this? You're
Oh,
gonna
oh,
be
yeah. In that sense, yes, yes, yes.
exactly. If you're writing
Got
tests,
it.
you're pushing, then that's who you are at this point.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
cool. Who should I ask? I'm gonna ask Moonbite just because you had a lot of questions. So I just want to make sure that you understood, right? At least from the class, since you're not spending a lot of time. So give me your understanding. What do you understand? Give me in like 30 seconds. The overall view.
Well, basically, it's the same. Like it's a depository, and uh, a developer
No, what
works.
GitHub is. I'm not asking you to what repository is.
I'm sorry. It's a yeah. It's like in simple words, it's a storage where we keep our works or the rest of the workers who were like the other who are working in the same project. They store their works in the GitHub, and it's a process that you can work on it and push your work, and then also you have the advantage to pull up to work more on the same project.
You see, nothing is special about it. You said something's correct, but really didn't ring a lot of bell, right? So what does that mean is that when Abid just explained, right, what GitHub is, and by the way, so I also take people's interview. So at work, whenever people are getting hired, and I'm asked to take interview, I take interview. So being on both sides, right? So let's assume Abid came to my company and I asked him the same question. What is the GitHub? And he tells me that. I am not going to have it followed by questions. I'm just going to say, oh, okay, great. And then move on to the next question. Now with your questions, I'm going to be having a followed up questions, right? With your answer, because it's created more confusion than answering the question itself, right? You're not really explaining the main benefit of having GitHub, right? You're just saying, okay, somebody can save the code and then they can work from the same repository and that's it, right? Now, why can't you do that with Google Drive? Why can't you do that with Google or maybe using Dropbox? Any of the other tool does the same thing, right? What is the difference that GitHub, what is the secret sauce of GitHub, or what does GitHub provides? It is a version control tool that actually helps you with having multiple developers working on the same repository without having to have merge conflict or without having to have conflict or overriding each other's code. And it'll have multiple branches or multiple version of code that is going to be um, stored, and at will you can go ahead and push or merge those code to the original branch, which is the master in this case. So I just wanted to like say that is because not to make anybody feel bad here. It's just that this is the level of explanation. So when you go out and take some interviews, you're gonna see like nobody's looking for that second best, right? So if somebody comes to me and they answer it the way that Abid did, to me, like at that point, I would say, okay, that's satisfactory, move forward, right? And they want to hire, like, I remember like getting tired of taking interviews of people, right? And I was just waiting for the next person that is going to do at least 80% good and I'm going to hire. And I'm not a picky person when I take interviews. As long as they have the concept, I don't care if their resume is fake or real. I don't really give it, I don't really care at all. As long as they answer my questions, I get them hired. um so so like answering the question, everybody's looking for number one when it comes about interview. So just make sure that when you answer your questions, you are directly addressing the question, right? And if you can't, then it's okay, just learn it, and then next interview you can do better. Okay, so now that we learned the whole overview pretty much of a GitHub, and you can actually explain what GitHub is. We do have some commands here that has provided by Bitbucket support, which is Bitbucket and GitHub, same thing as, okay? So if you ever work in GitHub, then you know what Bitbucket uses the same exact command for Git. Um, So the first thing first, if you are brand new and you just created a GitHub account, you have to set up your local config, meaning you have to put your name. This is the exact command to put your name in there, right? Then you will have to put your username, and the same thing, password will be user.password, and then you have to put password. Once that is done, to create yourself a brand new repository, you can just say git init and it will create a brand new repository. But we're not doing that because we're going to be working with existing. Check out whenever you want to check between branches. So let's go ahead and look at our and do some work, right? So maybe that's better instead of going over and explaining. Okay, so I'm gonna go into, let's see, where is this repository? Projects, I believe. Let's see. I don't know where I kept this. 1 second. I gotta go into this light framework. Go ahead and find the path of this. Copy path, and that is absolute user projects. Okay, so you see user projects and then light framework. Okay, good. So now cd projects, and all of you guys using Windows, you're going to be able to use exactly what I'm doing to move to the exact directory where your repository is. Okay. And this is going to be turning out to be your homework. Now, for those who actually didn't do anything at all with the end-to-end, there is going to be a little bit too much for them because now they have to do two things. But this also gives them a chance to catch up. But GitHub is something I'm not going to say immediately is due, because over time we're going to be writing more and more code. So at some point, if you're good at pushing, you should be good. So I'm going to go inside of project. So the way I do that is by using cd. This is a bash command. And since you have git bash on your computer, and I'm talking about all of the Windows user here, then you would be able to do the same thing, right? Even though you're Windows, you're still using bash command. Inside of project, I'm going to do ls. ls is for list pretty much all of the directories and files. And I can see this framework right here. Okay, even though it's right here, I can see exactly where it's locally saved. So I'm going to go into light framework, so cd li, and I'm going to give you guys a shortcut. Since li, no other file starts with or folder starts with li, I can do tab. I can click on tab, it will automatically complete my whole thing. So boom. Okay, so just learn that It will probably be very time saving for you guys. And I'm gonna do enter. So now I am into my framework. So I'm gonna ask it first, how do I know if this is a Git repository? So I'm gonna say Git branch. So if I say Git status is supposed to give me like changes that I made and stuff like this. So if I do Git status, as you can see, Feral, not a Git repository. So this framework, we built it from scratch. It's not a Git repository yet. So I'm gonna create that. I'm gonna basically make that as a Git repository. I'm gonna push it into exactly where I have. So as you can see, if I go back to my name right here, and I got a bunch of stuff here, right? And I just want to create a new repository. So the first thing first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, I'm going to go to repository and I'm going to click on new, right? And once I click on new, I got to give it a name. So let's see, framework, something like that, whatever, right? So then I'm going to give it a description. If I want to, it's public. I cannot do private here because I'm not a paid subscriber. README, I can add a README file where I can explain how to do things with my repository. But for this purpose, I'm not going to do it. I can add a git ignore note, right? So that way it can ignore things I don't want to push. But for now, it's fine, right? It's nothing sensitive here. So we'll leave it. Okay. Once I'm on this page, it's telling me that create a new repository from command line that is brand new creating or pushing an existing repository from the command line. So exactly what I have is existing. We created the repository, but we don't really have that as a Git, right? So what I'm going to do first, I have to do git init to make sure that it initializes my framework, right? So I'm going to click on git init first. Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and, so let me clear this first. Okay, clear. And make this a bit more, you guys can see the screen, correct? Yes,
Yes,
or no?
Joel.
Yes,
Yes.
Joel.
Okay. So, all right. So now that we can see it, oh, what's happening? I'm gonna just start a new one because too many things going on, right? Okay. Make it a bit better. Okay. Now that we're here, and I'm gonna do a clear. And first thing first, I gotta go into that project, right? CD project slash light, boom, automatically, right? Done. So I'm inside right now of the light automation framework, exact repository. If I do git status, it doesn't really ring a bell. It says not a git file, not a git project. So I'm gonna have to do git init first. And now initializing empty git repository, boom, and it's done, right? So now git status. And as you can see, it went ahead and made my repository that is local and it was not associated with GitHub now became Git. And now it says, do you want to add this? Of course we want to add this because these are the changes is in red, right? So I got to add all of them, right? These are not tracked, these are red. Okay, so you see it giving me some sort of note like, hey, nothing added to commit before you can commit, right? Untracked files present. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically commit by doing this git commit m. Remember message, first commit? So I can copy this. You know what? I'm going to write it so you guys can understand. So I'm going to git commit. I want to commit all of this, right? But I want to add this first. How am I going to just commit this without adding? So git add. I want to add everything. Dot. That's it. I can add everything with a single dot, right? Or I can add one at a time. Let's say I want to add drivers first. Git add drivers. Okay, now it's added a git status and look what happens. Boom, new file added. Did you see what I just did? I want to add the next one, git pom.xml, which is pretty important. Ooh, okay. I think it needs that slash or something. Oh, okay, missing add. Git status. Pom is also added. So similarly, we do all of them. So just to save some time, I'm going to git add that. Okay, git status. I have added all of the files that I need. Okay, even the IntelliJ file that I shouldn't even have, git ignore files, all of it is there. Even the test cases and everything, right? Everything is new and edit. Now, what can I do? Now, what I can do is I can do my commit, okay? So now I will go ahead and do git. And by the way, if you look at it right here, if you refresh, it's still nothing, okay? Still no branches are pushed yet because I didn't push yet, okay? So I'm gonna say git commit, and I have to do a message dash m for message, and I'm gonna say this is my first push. This is my first commit for this framework. Work in progress, WIP. Okay. And all of them were basically committed. Now I'm going to show you guys what I talked about earlier. Now I'm ready to push, right? So if I do git status, and we obviously didn't do one thing correct, right? Which is we worked on all these days, we worked on master. And because I'm the original creator, I'm going to push my master. I'm not going to create a new, I'm not going to clone it and do new thing, right? We're going to do that in a second, but because this is my first push, we're pushing master directly because master doesn't even exist here yet, okay? So if I say grid branch, this is going to be saying masters, right? You see master. So master doesn't exist here. So I'm going to, for the first time ever, I'm going to go ahead and push the master, and your manager, your lead, your coworker already probably done that already. So you don't, this is just for your own knowledge. So now I'm going to say git push, and guess what it does? It telling me that no configure push destination, either URL from the commit line, blah, 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 remote git remote add URL, and then push, right? So you see, like, it's really, you know, it needs to have, we need to basically run this one is because it's not added to any sort of repository. We just created a repository, empty repository here, right, in GitHub. So we have to associate that by saying git remote add this repository to this origin right here. We already have did the commit, right? So now, because this is existing one, we can just do this, right? Like, let's follow the right one. And then I'm gonna do this, and then now do git push. Okay, now it will tell me something. So I'm purposely making mistake here so it can tell me like, hey, look, you're missing this. I'm not following this like thoroughly, right? So now, as you can see, because I want to push master, I don't want to push main. I don't like the word main. So the way, like, if I followed this one, it would create a main, and then it would want me to push the main, right? I want master basically, right? So now it says, hey, look, this master do not exist here into the cloud. So what you want to do git push, but you want to set the upstream origin master, right? So I'm going to copy this. This is the exact same one that we talked about it, right? And I'm going to go ahead and push that. And as you can see, it has went ahead and pushed everything to master, right? And set that master as the origin. And now we have ourselves the repository just pushed. If you don't believe me, look at the um, comment that we wrote, right? This is my first commit, blah, blah, work in progress 3 minutes ago. The commit was done 3 minutes ago. So it took me some time to explain to you guys, and then it was pushed. Now it only has a master. That's the first part, right? Now, let's say you just joined this company. So I'm going to go ahead and work from another branch, right? So I'm going to get out of this repository, okay? And I'm going to go into a different directory and do everything as if you are doing yourself tomorrow with this branch, okay? And cloning and everything, okay? So, and the assumption here is that everybody's logged in, right? So if you didn't log in, it will give you a prompt and say, hey, what's your username? Hey, what's your password? And it'll tell you just like this, right? Give me your username, enter like this, enter username, name and password and things like that. But if you don't want to deal with this enter username and things like that, you have to already set up by saying git config, username is this, git config, user email is this, git config, user password is this. And then once that is done, then you don't have to face that login issue, okay? So this is where it is. I'm going to share this link right now. So when you later watch this video, you will be able to see this. Okay. Okay. So now, all right. Let's go back now, right? So let's do one fresh start. Like from the very beginning, we have went ahead and pushed our branch and all that. So assume right now that I'm a brand new person. I don't know who was that person that pushed this code. And they asked me to work on this branch. And this is my first day. This is what I will do to set up, right? This is where you learn do how to clone and things like that on your first day, your second day, third day, whenever they give you the opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my home directory. And now I'm no longer inside of Light Automation Framework. Okay. Now, what I will do, I'm going to create a new directory, new folder, and I'm going to work from the new folder. So I'm going to, so that way I can start fresh. Okay. So I'm going to say mkdir, and that is also true if you are using any sort of bash, right? And then I'm going to say new project, right? Or something, or my new project, whatever, my new. And then ls, my new project is added right there. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go into it, cd, my new project inside. So I'm inside right now. Now my manager gave me this link. I visited and it's like, oh, okay, this is a repository for the automation. Finally, I got it. So I'm gonna click on the code, and assuming that HTTPS is allowed, I'm gonna go ahead and click that. And then now I'm going to do git clone. Remember we talked about git clone? How many people remember? So that's the first thing we're going to do. And we're going to follow the guide that we created earlier, right? With this. Okay, so just I'm going to reference this here. So the first thing is git clone. Okay, this is what I'm doing, git clone. So let's do it. Git clone and then paste that URL. Now I want to remove one confusion, right? It's the URL that you get it from here is not same as the same URL here. Okay, so never take this URL and try to clone it. It has to be cloned, copied from here. You just simply click on the clipboard and it will copy it for you. Now go back to our drawings, which is give us some visibility on what's next, right? Then I'm going to do the cloning, and as you can see, it already downloaded for me. Okay, that's the first thing happened. Now I'm going to say git status, and oh, okay. The reason it says it's not a git branch because we cloned it, but we have to go inside of it, right? We're still in the project, in the directory. So if I do ls, oh, I'm sorry, ls, and then it shows the framework. So I'm going to say cd framework ls, and I'm inside of the framework, and it says Light Automation Framework and all that stuff, right? So I'm inside of my framework, and now what I can do, I can make changes and I can try to do push. Now I'm going to say git branch first and see which branch I am in. So git branch gives you the sense where you are, like which branch you are in. I'm going to do git pull to make sure I'm pulling from the latest master, the master that is out there in the cloud. This is my local master that I just made using git clone. Okay. So I'm going to do git pull, and it says, look, already up to date with the remote master. Okay. So far so good. So far you guys are with me? Before I'm gonna go ahead and start working, I'm making sure that my master locally is actually, same as the remote master. Is there a confusion here? Anybody with, like I said, ask questions. I will never, how do I say, criticize anybody for asking questions. I know sometimes I go off a little bit, and that is because we need to make sure that people are doing the right things. You are here for a job, right? So we want to do everything that we can to get you one. So
Uh,
now, yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
I have a quick question. So
Mhm.
suppose I make changes to the master branch, right? So I made few changes, and you do a git pull now, and you still have the old one that you had from before. So now will it show you the conflict thing that you were explaining before?
It will not. So let's say you made changes to your master and then you do git pull. As long as you didn't touch the same file, it will be able to pull the latest change, right? But if you happen to touch the same file that somebody else already did and put it to the master, then it will say, hey, you're behind. It will say you're behind by something. You're behind by one push or two push or three commits or four commits, right? And at that point, you just realize, wait a minute, somebody already pushed code before me, and I'm trying to pull that, and I touch the same file. So that point, if you want to like remove that conflict, all of your changes, put it in a notepad, completely clean it up, pull it again. Once it's pulled, then put it back, right? Or do this, right? This is, I mean, this is the right thing to do. I'm just giving you guys an option, but this is the right thing to do. You do git stash, update your branch, and then do unstash after, as soon as you're done. So far, so good, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool. So now, again, you're a newbie, you just joined, you're able to do the first thing, cloning, right? After the cloning, you got your local master. And then right away, within that minute, you decided to do a git pull and you realize it says it's up to date with the previous master. That's where we are. The next thing, before you can start working on, you have to create a branch. It's called, we're going to say E2E test or something, right? We're going to give it a name.
Julbhai,
Mhm.
can you point out where you did the clone command?
Yep, right there. Up here somewhere. Okay, git clone, and then the link,
Okay.
right? So git clone
So
and the
that so clone has to be the first command, and then you get the git pull to make sure it's up to date.
right. So this is the thing, right? When I first created this directory, this is a folder, right? I created the folder. I went inside the folder. That folder had nothing. Okay, it had, and it didn't have anything at all. So when I did git clone, it copied exact master from the remote and placed it into this repos sorry, placed it inside of this directory, which is a folder. Then what I did, I went inside of that folder somewhere here, cd somewhere. I did, I went inside of that folder, right? And I said, okay, let me see, oh, right here, right? ls inside of that, okay. And then once I did that, I see ls and my framework, and then I did cd inside of the framework because that's the name of the repository. And then I can see all the files that belongs to this framework. Once that is done, I did git branch, because when you do git clone, it automatically associate this branch with, it is still connected to GitHub. So that way it can do pull, push, and everything without you doing extra work on connecting. It's already connected to GitHub, right? So once that is done, you're going to be doing a git branch to see which branch you are in, and it will show that you're in local master. This is not same as the remote master. And then you do a git pull anytime you want to create a new branch. So then what is the next step here, right? Because we're going to be working on, you're going to be making your first test or writing your first test at work. um, so what you need to do, like first thing first, you need to create a new branch from your local master, as long as it's up to date, as long as it's up to date. So write it somewhere, memorize it. But remember, if you're creating a new branch, you're going to avoid a lot of conflict by making sure that your branch is up to date before even creating the new branch. Okay, otherwise you'll have to go through this later. Got it? And then I'm going to also show you another way to do the same thing without having to write these things, right? So that'll be maybe slightly good news for some of you guys, but we want to do this, right? um so so far so good. Now I want to make these changes. I want to add a new branch. So I'm going to say, let's create a new branch, git checkout b for branch, and I'm going to give it a name. Name is what we would like to, let's say, add some comments. Add, I don't know, like, but wait. Okay, I'm gonna say cleanup test or something, or you know what? Just do this, right? So that way you guys kind of familiar with what we talked about earlier. E2E test, right? And enter. And as you can see, it immediately switched to the new branch. You see, new branch has been created, and it switched to the E2E branch. So now what I will do, I will say git. How do I know this actually took place? How do I know it's not lying to me? Somebody wants to answer this?
ls.
LS is not going to do it. Anybody else want to try?
Git branch.
Git branch, right? So just want to make sure that the machine is not lying to me. I'm going to do git branch, and it's see, I am right now inside of E2E test. Now, IntelliJ is your friend, right? So let's go to IntelliJ. Okay, this is not the same branch. Okay, this is not the same repository. So we're going to basically now go ahead and go to open up our new thing, and I will say, okay, so this is the one, right? Framework, and open IntelliJ with the new. So, oh, damn it, I made a mistake. Okay, now it's fine. Should be. Okay. Project. Okay. Okay, so now we went ahead and opened. Okay, I'm gonna just do it again real quick, guys. IntelliJ. And I want to open up a new one. Okay. Projects, open, and it's inside of here, right? Inside of this framework. Okay, boom, open, done. So now notice it's different, right? So that's good. That's inside of my project. So this is the one. Now I'm gonna give you guys some help here, right? And this is we're doing in parallel, so let's not get lost in that. Notice what it says right here. So when you're making changes, and when you do the command git branch, it tells you you're in E2E branch, but you got yourself IntelliJ is also your friend telling you exactly which branch you are in. Now, for those who are a Eclipse fan here, there are a few people that like Eclipse. This is something is not possible in Eclipse. That doesn't indicate, and Eclipse would ask you to refresh this. You have to constantly refresh to make sure that it applies the same changes that you make directly here. But it's if you make some changes through this, and it will immediately apply here. Okay. So that's why, like I said, Eclipse is pretty old school, and still there is a lot of work needs to be done to make it better. Now that you know for sure you're in E2E test, what is the next thing you need to do? You just created this. The next thing you have to make changes, correct? Whatever changes that you intended to make, right? So now that I'm already opened, I'm gonna be going to my source and say, you know what, go to my test case, and I'm gonna make some changes. This time you're gonna see something different that is happening, right? When you make changes, and it's also like helps a lot. So I'm gonna make a very simple change here, right? And I'm gonna have a multi-line comment. Who wants to help me with multi-line comment? I forgot. Let's see if any of you guys.
Asterisk,
For
front slash.
So you said this and this.
No, I'm sorry. Front slash, then asterisk.
That's correct.
Okay, and then your comments.
Okay, good. So here I'm gonna just write simple things, right? This is okay. So we're gonna say we are pushing this in Git to show new changes, and the pull request. The reason I'm keep typing wrong stuff because sometimes like looking at the screen for so close, I get blurry eyes. Okay, so the pull request and process, right? Okay, so let's say 2-line, multi-line. I don't want to write too many lines here. Now, what is different this time? What do you see? What do you notice something that is different than how you would do normally? What do you see here? Why there is a color changes going on? Give me some explanation, guys. This is don't you see this is neat to you guys? Like the color change now. Look, the color change now, and when you click on it, you see the colors also like kind of highlighting something. What does that mean? Like if you can probably guess, give me an answer.
Because of the cloud changes
This is
like
the these new things we add right now.
Right, because this repository, like this branch specifically, did not have these changes. These are brand new. It is not added and committed, right? It's not committed yet. As long as it's not committed, it will keep it this way. And there is a very usefulness to this because when you know what changes you made just now, it helps you to debug. Like if you kind of break something is not working, then you know exactly what lines of code you added, what are the new ones, and you can revert if you need to. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and push this. I'm gonna say git commit. So first of all, I can see what changes I made. So I'm gonna say git status. And as you can see, I made changes to this guy. Do I really need to do this? Not really, because this is like the setting for, you see the idea. We didn't make any change, intentional change to idea. Do you agree? We didn't make any intentional changes to this file. Do I still need to push that? We only change this. So I am the person, I'm the author. I went ahead and wrote this, right? So I know which file that I need to add, right? Yes or no? So I'm going to go ahead and git add because I made changes to only this. Done. Okay. Git status. The idea is still down here, and also the XML still down here. I don't really care about these changes because these are my local setting, the setting for the IntelliJ that I don't want other to use, or maybe, they already have their own settings. So they will get this on their own. So we don't need to. Now that we know this was modified, we're going to say git commit, and I'm going to write a message with M, right, -M. And I'm going to say something like this, added comment for learning purpose, right? And I'm going to go ahead and click enter. And as you can see, 1 file change, 5 insertion. 5 insertion, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Makes sense, correct? So each line will pretty much give you a count. So if something is wrong, you'll know that it's adding unnecessary lines that you probably didn't intend to. Guys, now next thing, what we're supposed to do, we just made the changes and we committed it. What is the next thing here in the list?
Joel, sorry, can you just point out that insertion that you just said?
What do you mean? What was the question?
Yeah, the insertion you just said.
Insertion. Oh, right here. Insertion is basically how many lines of code you added. We just added 5 lines. It thinks it's a code, but we just added comments, right? So it doesn't detect like, oh, it's a comment, you added a comment. No. It's just gonna think it's a comment. Line of code. So it's fine. Every line we add, even a blank line, it will still count as a line. Okay, and insertion is basically this is what you are adding, right? Right here.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
So Julbhai, our local if we update on IntelliJ, this Git on our local machine will automatically update it, or do you have to run any code on Git to get it updated?
I don't know. Okay, let's come back to the question. I didn't understand your question, right? You're saying if you make changes here, then you should do the same changes here immediately, yes?
Okay.
You will see the changes immediately because remember one thing, we're in the same exact location where this is. My project framework, correct? Where are we? We're in the same thing, framework, my project directory, correct? So you make changes here or make it changes here, different, it will all immediately show up. If you are using IntelliJ, right? If you're using IntelliJ, then yes. If you are using a Eclipse, then you have to do the refresh. You have to save first, and then you have to do refresh. That's the difference between IntelliJ and Eclipse. So now you added this. Now the next thing here, which one we're missing? So we went ahead and added a new branch name. We made some changes. We committed that changes, and now we're ready to push. So let's see. We just simply do git push. And now it says, wait a minute, E2E branch do not exist. Remember what I said, remote origin, blah, blah. And it says, look, E2E branch never existed before. So can you go ahead and use this command instead? So I'm going to copy this command and use it, right? So you're going to see this more often. So just know it that, when you do git push and this is a new branch, then it will give you the command to add. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And boom, it added it. So E2E branch. So local E2E branch push to remote E2E branch. That's it. Okay. Now we're going to go to our GitHub and we see we're going to complete the rest of the process, correct? Now it says E2E tests had recently pushed less than a minute ago, compare and push. So I'm going to click on compare and push. Remember, look, now E2E just added. Does anybody, okay, let me see 1 second. Where is my thing? Right. Remember, I mean, maybe I'm not good at art, but at least shows the resemblance of how it looks, right? This is another branch just added top of the master, like right next to the master. It has exact code. If I go to E2E, I can see exact same code and with maybe the changes. Now I can see the changes here. Okay, test case. And the changes actually is here, right? See? Now if I go to master, and then go into the changes, and it's not there, right? So the idea here is that I added my branch for people to review. Once that is done, then only the changes I want to put it to master. Okay, so I'm going to do compare and do a request. So I want people to review it. The way you're going to write a pull request, first of all, this is a one-liner. What happened and where did you write this code? What did you do? What were the changes? Here you're going to write some points like what this code will do to you. This code will help this, or this new test. I'm just going to write simple things. This is not relevant to what changes we made. So this test will do E2E validation of agent workflow, and then blah, blah, blah. Similar to that, this will help making tests run faster. I don't know. I'm just adding some things, right? So you add everything that will do by this code that you have. So then create that pull request after that. Once you do it, immediately you're not going to see green because they're going to block that. But for us, we're going to see green because I am the creator, right? So there is no restrictions. I can go ahead and merge it immediately if I want to. But that's not the way you're going to see. So now you immediately after what you do, you copy this link right here and you go to your messaging center, like wherever you message from, like it's going to be instance messaging, like you know, if you guys are familiar with AOL or if you guys are familiar with Skype, similar to that, you're gonna copy this and send it to one of the coworkers that you have, and you're gonna say, hey, can you look at this pull request? You're gonna send this link and say, can you look at this pull request? That's all you have to do. Or can you review this pull request? Or you can add them directly here. You can just here and you can find them and just add them here, and then they'll get the email saying review this pull request. Okay, so you're gonna add them to the reviewer. Once they review it and they don't make any comments saying, hey, this is bad, this is good, okay. So I'm gonna say, okay, fine, leave it for learning purpose. So I'm just making believe that I'm not the same person who did this. I'm just saying, okay, fine, it's okay. And now I'm gonna review, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna approve this, right? And I cannot approve my own work, but it's okay. But let's assume that I approved. Then now I got the go ahead to merge this pull request. I'm going to go ahead and merge it, confirm. Once the merge is done, I'm going to go back here. So merge is done. I can go ahead and immediately delete this branch because it's no longer needed, right? It was a temporary branch where it carried my changes. Now, if I go to the master, because it's already merged, I go to the master and I can see this changes already applied here. Okay, so now this branch is already merged. E2E branch already merged, but then when you go to this and you can see E2E branch exists here too. So if you are the branch owner, right? If you are the owner, then what you want to do, you can go back to your old pull request, right? Right here, and you see that it's merged and you're happy with it, you can delete. Click on it and it's delete. Now you go into this and you can see E2 is gone, but the changes stayed. Only the changes stayed, guys. So very important that you guys can understand this. The changes is stayed. Okay, I'm gonna do one more time now. This time I am not gonna do any sort of right coding or whatever. But look, I'm gonna say git status. Sorry, git branch. You're still in E2E, even though E2E remote was deleted. Okay, you're still in E2E. So now you need to get out of this. You're going to say git checkout master. Remember this local master? And you went back to your master. You're going to say git pull because you want to bring the changes that is in master. Because remember, right now your master is missing the new code because your local master is missing new code. So I'm going to do git pull and look, it added that changes to your local master. It says file 1, change 5 insertion. It was added to your local master. If I said do git branch here, and now I am in master now. Do I really need this? No, I can go ahead and delete it. You can keep it, whatever. leave it there, no problem. Now you're working on something new. You want to now create more changes. You want to do another push. This time I'm going to show you entirely. By the way, you're in master. Go back to your IntelliJ. Immediately you see you're in master. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the same workflow for those who didn't learn anything at all that I just said. You can do another way, which doesn't require you to know all the commands. But trust me, sooner or later, you're going to have to learn those commands. So don't skip. We're going to also want you to use these commands. So now, if you are using IntelliJ, and this is something that your Eclipse will not do. Like I said, why bother using Eclipse when you are getting so much disadvantage? You choose, right? Um, Now, when you, let's say, are ready to make some changes here, remember what we did. What will you do first when you want to make some changes? I think this is where we have that, right? We already moved back to master. Our master is up to date, and we want to make new test, right? We want to add a new test file, right? So let's say this was a test case. I'm gonna say new Java class, and I'm gonna add a new test. So new TC, right? So now I got a new class, and I'm gonna see immediately. It says add to Git. It says immediately to add to Git. So I'm not gonna add this for now, and it's red. The reason it's immediately saying that is because IntelliJ is also helping you. So I'm gonna add some of this code from here because so that way at least we have something to push. Okay. Okay, so we got this. Let's assume that we just added all of these things and it's good. And this is the changes that we want to push. Okay. We're still at master, right? These changes added, you see new, we added to the local master. So what we're gonna do, we take these changes and put it into a new branch. So I'm gonna say new branch, I'm gonna say new changes. I'm gonna give it a name, new changes, right? So if you're using Java, then you should be doing camel casing because that's what they like. And now we move to new changes without writing anything here. Okay, so now if you do git branch here, look, you are in new changes. You're doing directly from here now. Okay. Anybody confused?
So far, no.
Okay, good. So now that you're in new branch and your new file, remember how we had to add. So if you do git status and you see the new file was added here, new TC is added, we need to add it. So instead of writing the command that we did earlier, git add, I'm going to directly click here and I'm going to click on git and I'm going to say add. Okay. And now it added. So if I now do git status again, you can see this was added. The same workflow, guys, don't get confused. This is for you not using the command, and this is using directly your IntelliJ to do everything that we just did now. Everything and everything, you'll be able to do it through IntelliJ. So now that we added, the next thing we need to do, once adding is done, we need to commit. So how do we commit this new change? You go to your change, right click, go to the Git, and you want to say commit file. When you do commit file, remember how we write messaging? We have to write a message here. Now, before you commit, you want to see what you are committing. So this is the file we added, only that file, but also it's brought up in idea. We don't want that. So we see unclick, click, we just only want to add this change. Once you're satisfied with the changes that you see here that you made, then you write adding a new test. So you're just resembling exactly what you're adding. So adding a new test, for example, right?
Julbhai, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah. Is this the same thing that you did last time on
On the command?
multiple comments?
No. We just okay, so this is the thing, like you got to pay a little bit of attention, right? We added a new class, okay? And we added this, and now we already use the git add command to add this new file to the Git repository. And once that is done, I am now trying to add this. I'm trying to commit this, right? So I'm going to click on commit. and it contains the changes of the new things, right? It is not a comment. Where do you get the comment from? Like these are the changes that we are getting, right? The difference to this version.
I'm sorry, Julbhai.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But you understood, right? You understood?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Anybody else is confused? Anybody else have the same question? Anybody else had the same exact question? No, right? Okay, good. All right. So, like I said, you just have to kind of like, spend a lot of time like at home to understand a lot of things. Like you gotta do a little bit of work, um, because in 3 months or 4 months, you wanna have your skill set or your mindset is a little bit different than what you have right now. And if you're not spending that time, you're gonna remain who you are. You didn't improve, and therefore, it makes my life more harder to get you a job. Therefore, I'm gonna put you into a new batch. But Moonbai, like I said, the reason I tease you, the reason I kind of go off of you a little bit here, is because this is not the first time you're doing this, if I'm not mistaken, correct? You are on site. When we used to do on-site class, you were there. So that's why I'm kind of, this time I'm trying to make no mistake like last time where I was easygoing, right? Where I said, okay, do the homework. Okay, fine. Get another 10 days, do the homework, right? But like I said, on-site versus, doing this virtually it's very tough, right? For you guys and for us too. And if we are not enforcing about homework and you don't do them, and then your ideology, your mindset, your critical thinking do not change, right? And you don't make mistakes, right? You don't make mistakes, therefore you don't learn new things. You only learn by making mistakes, right? I don't want to say only, but the best way to learn is basically making mistakes. So just moving forward, do as much as
Joel, just a quick question. Are you starting any online on-site?
on site. We're gonna do most likely, because I know people are gonna get vaccinated. A lot of people are gonna be getting vaccinated. um and depending on, like, I'm probably gonna just do vaccinated people only type of like that. So once you guys are vaccinated in a couple of months, a lot of people are gonna be vaccinated. If you guys already work as a Uber driver, then you probably eligible. If you work in a restaurant right now, then you're eligible. So if you take it, then in a couple of months we're gonna do on site. We're gonna probably start doing trial, like 1 or 2 class per month, and then we're gonna go full on. We do have office location, an actual office, right? Where you will be able to go in, and we have conference room. We have pretty much all the nice setup, and you do get the feeling of being at work, right? So that's the important thing. That's why I always choose like office environment. I don't choose like somebody's basement or something, so yeah, I mean, maybe a month or so. Let's see where we are with the vaccination.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I don't know if I got people lost right now. We're doing the exact same thing. We're doing the commit, right? I'm just showing you how to do it directly from your IntelliJ, so you don't have to do it here. But like I said, for learning, you want to do this too, right? You want to learn both ways. And also removing conflict can be done directly from here, right? So I'm going to show you that too. So adding new test is the message, and I'm going to go ahead and commit, right? Once the committing is done, you see no longer different color, right? This is same as the same branch. I just didn't push yet. So what I'm going to do, right click, and I'm going to go to Git, or I can just go to VCS right here, somewhere up here, and then click on Git. But I can just do right click, and then I'm going to say push. Now you see, it knows what changes that I want to push, and I'm going to go ahead and push it. Changes are being pushed. At this point, remember, I have not written a command here, right, to do any of this. I just showed you simply what was something that I was pushing, and did everything through here. So this video is going to be pretty important for you guys for later to learn both ways. Okay, so where am I going next? Go back to this and go back to my repository framework, and notice the same message. New changes, which is the branch name, had to recent push 1 minute ago. Compare. And now I'm going to write the same notes, like please review this or whatever. I am adding this or adding that. Create a pull request. And then I can see my changes just to make sure that I'm editing the right things. And now if somebody reviews this and approves that, then I can go back to my framework real quick. Sorry, I can go back to my pull request. And then at that point, I can merge this pull request and it will go to our master file. And that's about everything for GitHub. You learn two different ways. Even if you can't do it through the command line, it'll take a little bit of time. So here and there, try, but you can fluently do it through pretty much do it through the IntelliJ. Now, how do you merge conflict or things like that, right? So in Git, if you go to Git, right, it gives you so many options to find, right? So Git, and you see stash, unstash, that's exactly you'll be doing, right? You can also see the difference. What is the difference? What is somebody else who already merged their change? I want to see what changes they made. Then you can show difference. Click on it, and you can choose to bring side by side difference if you want to. But for now, git stash and unstash you can use to do the merge conflict. So interview questions. Before I ask, obviously it's going to be the easiest question in the world, but who wants to answer it before I ask the question? So that way you don't go back and say, no, I don't want to answer. Somebody who wants to give it a try. I'm going to ask you a Git interview questions.
I can try.
Okay, and that is who?
Wasif Sayed.
Myself. Okay, so interview questions. How do you handle merge conflicts in Git?
Okay. So what you do is you check pull just to make sure if your master is up to date.
Mhm. And that's it.
So if it's up to date,
Let's
I
say
mean, I guess so.
let's say it was up to date at the time you checked, but then it's no longer up to date. But the very second somebody else goes
Oh, okay.
and push.
So
So
once you, so if you try to merge it, it will give a conflict error,
mhm.
and that way you'll be able to figure it out if it's so you're not gonna force merge it.
Mhm. And then what are you gonna do? You're gonna use two commands, right? There are two commands that you need to mention here.
Oh yeah, stash and unstash. So
Okay.
first you stash it
Mhm. And then pull the
and
change.
then unstash and then
First you
sorry.
stash. First you're gonna be stashing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna pull the changes from the remote master, and then you're gonna push.
Yes.
You're gonna unstash your change and then push.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have a better wording who wants to answer before we move forward? Like this is just basically to demonstrate that you learned something, right? So if anybody else want to answer it, I'll give you the opportunity before we move forward. All right, fine. Now,
Julbait,
yeah,
I have a
sure.
quick question here. So with the stash and unstash, let's say if there's a conflict in the update
Mhm,
that you're trying to make, if the developer has already made update, how
mhm.
do you find? I mean, if you stash it, and if you think that the exact same command was updated by the previous developer, so
Okay.
even that you would have to pull it or push it.
No, okay, there's two questions, right? I'm gonna address the first one first. When you stash, it's gonna say, hey, give this stash a name. Okay, because it needs to save it on a temporary file, right? It's gonna create a temporary file somewhere. So now you say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
git stash, and you're gonna give it a name. And the name will be like, okay, temporary change or something, or you know what, I will change this, I'll mark this back later, or something, whatever you can remember. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you then update your branch to make sure that your branch is up to date with the remote master, and you do the pool and everything is done, no longer conflict, then you want to restash, meaning you want to change that back because that's the changes that you want. So then
Mm-hmm.
what are you gonna do? You're gonna unstash it, but then it will say, okay, what are you unstashing? Give me the file name. What files are you unstashing, right? So because it created a file in your computer somewhere with the code. And then when you do unstash,
Okay.
that will uninstall that file. So it doing the work for you is same as if you literally copy this and put it in Notepad and then remove this file, pull it, and then put it edit back when things are better. Okay.
So so Joe, so when you stash it and create a temporary file,
Mhm.
when you stash it and create a temporary file, and then you create a branch, in that way, how does the conflict gets resolved? That's a little confusion that I have.
So, so when you stash first, right? So your branch. So if your branch is new changes or whatever, like let's say, okay, so this branch is giving you conflict, correct? Now
Hmm.
you do this stash. All of your changes is gone from here now, right?
Hmm.
Then you are able to move back to master, your local master. Remember, you cannot move to local master unless you. So now I'm checking out, right? Now that's one of the thing is going to happen if your local changes is there. So you have to commit to get back to master. So once you are in the master, you're gonna do pull, okay? So you can also use like terminal here directly if you want to. If you're a Windows user, you can do git pull directly here. If you want to use the sorry, if you want to use the command line, you can also do here, okay? For Windows user. So you do git pull and it says up to date. Once that is done, then you want this local master to merge to your branch, which is let's say new changes. So so now all the changes the remote master has, you want that to merge it to the right. So you're gonna do something like this. Git merge, okay, git merge, and you want to then merge this branch into your new changes. So or whichever branch you want, right? So I'm gonna put it into this one and merge. Once the merging is done, you see one update is done. Boom. Next thing I know, like that my branch that is new changes is up to date. Okay, because I
Hmm.
marked master directly to this branch. Once that, I will
Yep.
check it out. I will then check it out. You can, when I do the checkout, it moves back to this branch, right? So this is now, at this point, is a fresh branch that is same as the master itself, because that's what I did just now.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
I'm gonna do
And then you can unstash.
unstash here, and then
Unst
I can push. Go.
okay. So now it will not create a conflict.
Exactly.
So basically, a conflict would be created once you're working on a on your branch, and some other developer update the remote master file, right?
Yes. And they will follow the same
Okay.
process that you're following. They're not directly updating. They're also doing the same thing. And at some point,
Got it.
the remote will be updated, and that's when the conflict will begin to see. But remember, conflict GitHub is pretty good at dealing the conflict by itself. So you're only going to see
Hmm.
conflicts that GitHub cannot handle. Okay, so you're not
Got it. Got it.
you're not going to see like a lot of time when you want to push and you're trying, you're going to see like it will tell you like, hey, there was a conflict, I fixed it for you, boom, and it's going to push it and push it. It's not a force push, but it was able to resolve the conflict by itself.
Got it. Thank you, Joe.
No problem. Anybody? Okay, so I need one more person here that will be able to explain to me how do we resolve the conflict in GitHub. Then we move forward. And today is like right now 226, what is it, 225 on my side. So the next what I'm going to talk about is what I need people to start doing, right? So and then the next class we're gonna have one more week of the um same framework. Okay, this framework is one more week, and after that what I will do is move on to a new framework, and it will be, trust me, it will be completely different than this. And so we're going to be learning a new framework, and that's the framework we're going to spend the rest of our time on automation, because that's the framework is pretty popular. Everybody wants people to kind of use that, and this will pretty much and we're going to build top of that framework. We're going to basically build everything. So people that are behind with Java, people that are behind with this framework, people that are behind with Selenium, people that are behind with GitHub, I want you guys to spend a lot of time to get up to speed, because next class would most likely I'm going to just do this and then I'm going to move forward. um, or maybe like let's see, I need to see like how many people are really ready for the next thing. Um, like I said, we don't want to slow people down. What at the same time, we don't want to go in a speed where some people just get lost, right? So, and there are only very few people that I know needs to like speed things up. So it only applies to the few people that please make sure that you're up to speed, and so you don't end up getting removed from this batch. When we go way far where there is no way that you can catch up, where we go way far where you have no idea, you no longer have any idea what we're talking about, that's when you realize you didn't really catch up, right? Or that's when you will pretty much think like, oh, I should have just catch up, right? So we're giving you guys some time. We're gonna also do some additional classes during the weekdays, as Shantabai was mentioning, to make sure that people are up to speed. And like I said, so far people are posting their questions where they stuck, and we're jumping right on to make sure that people are not stuck and they can move forward, right? So if you post it, that means you're working, right? If you don't post it and you then later tell me, I'm working on it, but I'm having a lot of issues, then you're not working on it, right? Trust me, I deal with a lot of QA guys that is in offshore or they're working in onshore, and I manage them, and trust me, like I know exactly what's going on, right? I've been there, and I also seen people being in the same shoes, right? So let's not even like I said, everybody's an adult here. I don't want to pretty much put a lot of pressure on people, but at the same time we want to make sure that everybody is getting their time worthwhile, right? Meaning you're spending this time 2 hours. Why not just do the right things so you don't have to end up another 2 hours to watch the same video? You know what I'm saying? So focus, make sure you pay attention, ask questions, and then when you are spending daily basis 2 or 3 hours, that makes all the difference, right? Today, like I guess I spoke to I don't know Diana. I think Diana, and she did tell me like when she was doing these practices at home, that's when she learned. She didn't learn just from this, like, and I don't expect people to just learn from what I'm just telling you guys right now. And I don't expect that because I know how it works. I know how learning works, specifically developer, right? We're essentially teaching you how to become a like entry level developer, right? You're going to be able to push code, pull code. You're going to be able to write some code in Java, and you're probably going to be good at it at some point. Um, and some of you guys actually going to be starting as a developer too. So if and that is if you're interested, right? So we do have entry level position for developers. We placed nearly 8 people last month, right? Um, think about it, 8 people in 1 month. Every single one of them started as a junior developer. Okay. Now that opportunity is very flexible, meaning when you join as a entry level developer, they don't give you work for 6 months. That 6 months is just you learning from the senior guys in the company, and you get paid from the day one, right? You also get a bonus of $4,000 for signing. And basically, once you finish, they will give you 6 months training. Once after the training, they give you a final test. And trust me, 8 hours, all you're gonna be doing is coding every day for 6 months. And once let's say somehow you fail the final test, you become a QA. They will just still, they're not firing you. They're still keeping you as a QA. But if you pass, then you then become a developer, right? So they do have their backup plans. They don't want to spend 6 months on somebody and then later they think they want to fire that person. It doesn't make sense, right? They're spending a lot of money. They're giving you salary for 6 months and then they're giving you bonus. And then after that, they're basically hiring somebody to train you. And then, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense if they're going to fire you. So that opportunity will be open up. So we just did recent hiring. It's going to be open up again in like a month or so. I'm going to look into and see. There is one criteria though, right? If you have a US bachelor degree, then you can reach out to me at some point, and we can talk about this opportunity. This opportunity is like I have direct connection, so basically there is a good chance that interview and everything will be just not going to be a big deal, right? And you will, when you are placed, that's it, done. There is no need for me to help you because you're getting help from the company itself, right? Um, all right, so, and then obviously you'll get money as an entry-level developer, right? You're not gonna get money as a QA engineer where you're making 80, 90, or 95,000. So again, if you have a US-based bachelor degree, you can reach out to me at some point when you feel like more comfortable doing this testing and learning Java, and then we can see where you are, how much homework you did, and then then we'll pick few of you guys and place you. And these are direct placement. You work directly for the company, not for us. And from there on, it's a full-time job. You're good to go, right? And the process is like maybe 1.5 week, and you will get an offer the following Friday. All right. So like I said, you guys, if you do the homework, this really makes our life easy. We're tracking, trust me, we're tracking. We also have few names that we keep coming to our heads when we have our Friday night meetings, and we know that these people are going to be doing very well, right? The other thing is that we don't want to basically spoil some of you guys saying, okay, you're doing so well compared to others, is because then you're not going to do the hard work, right? So we want that hard work to remain, and it will only get harder as time goes by. I think SQL is something that is still Shantavai is planning to teach, and I asked him to hold it for this week, right? He was going to teach this week, right? I said, hold it because I need to make sure that these people are actually writing some, test before we move forward. So when you go into SQL, it's going to be even more like extra technical stuff that you have to learn, and it's going to be putting more pressure. So let's not do that. And